Egypt, a land filled with millennia of culture development, has always been regarded as a place of wonder and mystery. Hieroglyphs and wall paintings tell stories of ancient Egypt and the deities that lived in it. Temples constructed to display the glory of the gods and pharaohs still remain upright.
Since most of the population could not read hieroglyphs, they had to rely on wall paintings and verbal retellings to understand the tales of an Egypt they had never experienced before.
The tales told in such paintings, inscriptions, and speech reflected the beliefs and lifestyles of the Egyptian people. Conventions such as fate, reincarnation, hierarchy, divine intervention, and slavery all were accepted and abided. However, the ideals that were centralized the most in these tales dealt with divinity, class roles, and success. An example that employs these ideals is the millennia-old tale of Rhodopis, as recorded by the Greek historian Strabo in the 1st century BC.
This tale begins with Rhodopis, a Greek girl being captured and sold into slavery in Egypt, where she is bought by a slave owner. She gets belittled by other servant girls due to her non-Egyptian features. However, Rhodopis is shown kindness by her master with a gift of red slippers after she is seen magnificently dancing and singing by the Nile. The pharaoh at the time hosts a festival that, although all are invited to attend, the servant girls prevent Rhodopis from attending. Horus, an Egyptian god in the form of a falcon, takes one of her slippers and places it onto the pharaoh's lap, prompting him to search for the owner and take her as a wife. After scouring all of Egypt for the owner, he finally finds her therein, making her queen of Egypt.
The obvious European fairy tale that comes to mind when told this story is Cinderella. The similarities between Rhodopis and Cinderella are quite noticeable too. Receiving mistreatment from other people, having a fairy godmother figure, the idea that a slipper is a deciding factor for who would marry into royalty. Cinderella's stepsisters are replaced by servant girls that ridicule Rhodopis for looking different. In Rhodopis, the fairy godmother role is taken up by Horus, who helps her escape slavery by essentially setting up the marriage between her and the pharaoh and using the slipper to find the woman he will marry. At the time that this tale was made, the whole of Egypt was experiencing the Ptolemaic dynasty. This dynasty began around the 4th century BC, when one of Alexander the Great's generals, Ptolemy I Soter, claimed Egypt after Alexander's death. Because Egypt was under Greeks' control rather than Egyptians, slight changes in Egypt's culture occurred. Egypt was transformed into a center of trade for the Mediterranean when Ptolemy I and his descendants began to commercialize it. The idea of slavery, as seen in Rhodopis, was still a widely accepted value, and as communication between different kingdoms and empires grew, it is no surprise that Rhodopis was made Greek rather than Egyptian. Despite Ptolemy's changes to Egypt, the ancient deities were allowed to remain a part of Egypt's culture. In fact, temples such as the Temple of Edfu were constructed under the Ptolemaic dynasty, showing that ancient Egyptian traditions had not died out.
Just like in Cinderella, animals were a crucial part of Rhodopis, but instead of there being mice and birds, there was crocodiles, hippos, monkeys, and falcons. Egyptians believed human relations with animals was essential in keeping balance in life. Many of the gods, who were highly respected, often represented animal-like features. Horus, for example, a powerful falcon god who takes the role of Rhodopis' fairy godmother. Other Egyptian gods include Sebek, the crocodile god of strength and power, Thoth, the overseer of good and evil who takes the form of a baboon and ibis, and Teret, the hippo goddess seen as a symbol of female fertility. We can see that each animal mentioned in Rhodopis represents the cultural value of animals.
In both Cinderella and Rhodopis, the protagonist was pushed around. However, one was a matter of sibling rivalry, while the other was based solely on appearance. Rhodopis was scrutinized because she didn't have black, silky hair, dark-colored eyes, and tan skin, all features that Egyptian women possessed. Ancient Egypt placed great value on appearances, and although Europe did praise women for being beautiful, looks were never a reason to mistreat someone, especially with blonde hair and fair skin. The differences between the respective conventions of beauty standards and social customs in Cinderella and Rhodopis reinforces the distinctions between the cultures and time period of these tales.
All differences aside, both stories end with a happily ever after.